So, I've been diving into this book, The Art of Intentional Thinking by Peter Hollins, and let me tell you, it's kind of blowing my mind. Mark, you've heard of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. That book's packed with insights on how our mindset pretty much shapes every single part of our lives. Hollins has a way of making these ideas super practical, so you can actually start changing your thinking habits and seeing real results. So, what's grabbed you most about it so far?
Honestly, it's this idea that the way we think isn't just how we are, you know? It's something we can shape and control if we're intentional about it. Hollins dives into all these mindsets we should build, and it just made me realize how much I've been, like, on autopilot in my own head.
Right? I thinking that's exactly what intentional thinking's all about, getting off autopilot and really choosing your thoughts, almost like building mental habits. And Hollins explains it in such a cool way. He says your mindset literally determines your life because it shapes how you interpret situations, respond to challenges, and even how you view yourself.
And he's got a whole system for doing this, doesn't he? It's not just think positive and everything will be fine. There's some science behind this stuff.
Yep, exactly. He talks about things like self-fulfilling prophecies, where the expectations you set for yourself can actually lead to real-life outcomes, good or bad. He compares it to things like the placebo effect or even the Pygmalion effect in education, where a teacher's high expectations lead to better performance from students.
So basically, if I keep telling myself I'm not good enough, my brain might actually make that happen.
Pretty much. But on the flip side, if you start telling yourself you are capable and you visualize success, that kind of positive self-talk primes your brain to behave in ways that make it true. It's not just feel-good stuff, it's rooted in how our brains work. That's why Hollins is all about replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones. And honestly, just noticing those negative thoughts is the first step.
That's so powerful. And yeah, he talks about it as a skill to develop, which I love. Speaking of skills, there's a whole section about the growth mindset. I know we've talked about this before, but how does he connect it to intentional thinking?
Great question. Growth mindset is actually one of the core pieces of intentional thinking because it's all about seeing your abilities as things you can develop, not fixed traits. The term comes from psychologist Carol Dweck, and Hollins builds on it, saying if you believe you can improve, you'll actively work on it, which again becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's the one where you see challenges as chances to grow, right? Instead of thinking, I'm just bad at this, you go, I'm still learning.
Exactly. It's about focusing on effort and progress, not perfection. People with a growth mindset tend to be way more resilient because they see failure as a stepping stone, not a dead end. And Hollins gives some practical tips like shifting your language from I can't to I'm learning to. Small change, big impact.
Yeah, I tried that after reading it, and it really does make you feel more capable. Like, it opens you up to possibilities. I noticed he also dives into this idea of the locus of control, which sounded really new to me. Can you break that down?
Oh, totally. So, the locus of control is basically about where you feel the control center of your life is. People with an internal locus of control believe they're responsible for what happens to them, that their actions make a difference. Those with an external locus tend to think that life's more about luck or outside factors.
Got it. So, if I'm feeling like everything's just happening to me, that would be more external.
Exactly. And it's easy to fall into that mindset. But an internal locus of control helps you see challenges as things you can actually tackle. Holland suggests ways to build this by taking responsibility, setting achievable goals, and focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't. It really empowers you to take action instead of just waiting for things to change.
And I guess that ties into resilience, right? He mentions Stoic principles to help with that, which I thought was fascinating.
Yes! Stoicism is all about resilience, and it's a big part of intentional thinking. One thing he suggests is reframing obstacles as opportunities for growth. It's like training your mind to see every problem as a potential win. It's kind of like flipping the script when things go wrong. The Stoics would even practice something called negative visualization, where they'd imagine the worst case scenario just to appreciate what they have. That way you're less shaken when things get tough.
So, you're saying they'd think about things going wrong on purpose to make it less scary.
Pretty much, it sounds counterintuitive, but it works. Plus, Hollins suggests the 40% rule from Navy SEAL training, which is basically the idea that when you feel like you're at your limit, you've probably only used about 40% of your actual capacity. So there's almost always more you can give, even when you feel totally drained.
Wow, that's intense. And it's a great reminder to push a little harder. But here's my thing, sometimes I feel like I get stuck in my head. Just overthinking everything. Does he talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big one. Hollins actually warns against the dangers of paralysis by analysis. Basically, the idea is that excessive planning or overthinking stops you from actually doing anything. He stresses the importance of action, even if it's just a small step.
That's me for sure, always waiting for the right time. What does he suggest to beat overthinking?
One of his tips is the 5-second rule. You count down from 5 and then just do whatever it is you're stalling on before your mind has time to stop you. It's about taking action before you talk yourself out of it. He also recommends focusing on solutions rather than the problems themselves, which shifts your mind into action mode.
All right, next time I'm debating whether to go to the gym, I'll try that 5-second rule. Seems like a game changer. And from there, he goes into setting big goals, right?
Yep, he talks about what he calls big, hairy, audacious goals, or BHAGs, which are these ambitious, long-term goals that push you beyond your comfort zone. But here's the twist. Hollins says it's less about the goal and more about the system you create to reach it.
A system like routines or habits.
Exactly. Goals give you direction, but systems create consistent progress. It's about breaking big goals down into manageable, repeatable actions. He even explains that systems help reduce the pressure because you're focusing on the day-to-day actions instead of stressing over the end result.
I love that. It makes the whole journey feel less overwhelming. And the focus on systems probably helps with building gratitude too, right?
Yes, you nailed it. Gratitude and optimism are actually huge themes in the book. Hollins talks about how gratitude can be a powerful tool for happiness and resilience. Practicing gratitude, like keeping a daily journal of things you're thankful for, can really shift your focus to what's good in your life, which can improve your mental well-being.
And he also links optimism to success, doesn't he?
He does. Optimism creates a positive feedback loop. Optimistic people tend to notice opportunities more, which leads them to act, which then leads to better outcomes, which reinforces their optimism. And if you're surrounding yourself with positive influences and celebrating small wins, it becomes easier to maintain that mindset.
I can see how that would make a difference, especially when things get tough. And I noticed the book also emphasizes humility, kind of a reminder that you don't know everything.
That's right. Hollins calls it intellectual humility, which is basically recognizing that your knowledge is limited. Staying curious and open to learning new things keeps you adaptable and less rigid in your thinking. And it improves your problem-solving skills because you're open to new perspectives.
That makes sense. I think I'd be less stressed if I was more open to learning instead of, like, always needing to be right. And that openness probably ties into being present too, doesn't it?
Definitely. Being present is actually the final piece of intentional thinking in the book. Living in the moment helps you manage stress and really appreciate life's little things. Hollins suggests practices like mindfulness and engaging fully in activities, even simple ones, to ground yourself in the now.
So it's like instead of worrying about what happened yesterday or stressing over tomorrow, just being right here.
Exactly. And that focus on the present can bring so much more fulfillment. Hollins says it's really about taking control of what you can, the here and now, and letting go of the rest.
Wow, this book really is like a toolkit for mental well-being. Being, mindset, gratitude, resilience, humility, all the things we need to live a better life, but probably don't think about enough.
That's exactly it. The Art of Intentional Thinking is more than just a book. It's a practical guide to changing how you think, act, and feel. If you start implementing even a few of Holland's strategies, you'll see shifts. It's powerful stuff.
I'm excited to start using these techniques. And I hope everyone listening is inspired to pick up The Art of Intentional Thinking and give it a read too. It's definitely worth it!
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you found this episode of the Real Reads Review helpful. And remember, your mindset is something you can shape. Let's all try to live a little more intentionally.